You or someone that you know at least has gone through a divorce or a separation if you were de facto but not married. Look, either way, it's a pretty stressful time. I think we can agree on that. The relationship breakdown, depending on the situation, can be highly emotional. On top of that, you're dividing assets and you're making sure that your financial situation is then stable enough for yourself to see you safely into the future. Have you ever thought about engaging a financial specialist for that sort of stuff? Now, this is the kind of thing that Mandy Newman does. She's a senior financial advisor, and she does wish that people would reach out for support a bit sooner in all of this stress. Mandy, good morning.
Good morning, Sarah.
How did you get into the business of advising people in this situation about their financial situation?
It actually just sort of happened a bit organically, really. As a financial advisor, I've been advising for 27 years, and I was starting to see more and more people coming to see me after they've gone through their separation. So they'd already decided on the asset split, and there were some instances where I just sort of thought to myself, I really would have loved to have had a conversation with you maybe prior to this, because decisions were being made at that time that are highly emotive and not always the right decisions at the time for the future. So I really thought it would be a good opportunity if I could have had a word with them and their family lawyers, just so we can say, listen, based on this, maybe this isn't the right thing for the future, even though, you want to do this now, and I understand that, but it may have financial implications for you in the future.
What are some of the financial mistakes people make in that pre-settlement period?
Well, emotion is high, and we can all agree that making decisions when you're under pressure, and even for very financially savvy people, you're not always making the right ones. And probably the most common, and there are lots of them, and we could spend all day, but one of the most common that I see is unfortunately the family home. So people will do everything they can to retain the family home, and that may not necessarily be the right thing for them in the future, because we can actually show them that, look, it's fine. However, in another year or 2 or 3 years' time, we're going to have to sell this because you are not going to be able to afford to maintain and sustain this property. You're either going to have had to have taken on too much debt, and your lifestyle is going to have to change significantly. So maybe there's a better way of doing it. And I understand the connection to the home, but it's a new chapter, it's a new journey. Let's make new paths forward and make right decisions, not just now, but for the longer term. Probably the other common one I see would be superannuation, depending on clients' ages. So, the benefits of superannuation. So let's not just exclude it and not or trade it away for other assets. So have those conversations about what this can do from a benefit for you for the future, and make those very clear and concise and, wise decisions with a bit of clarity and confidence.
And Mandy, how common is it for you to meet people who don't even really know what their financial situation is, or how much money is in the bank?
Oh, common. And the reason it's common, and, I'll often see people and they feel almost ashamed by that. And I just want to reiterate that it's extremely common. You go into a relationship and there is generally, in the majority of cases, one person will have more financial involvement than the other. And it just morphs into that. And to the point that I've seen clients that lack skills in having to pay a bill. And you know what? It's actually okay, because we can actually show you how to do all of those things. But when they're in the depths of it and they don't know the answers to the questions, they get very, very overwhelmed. So we really try to break it down so we can understand what their financial situation is now, what it's going to look like for them just from a cost of living perspective afterwards, because their journey forward is now on their own rather than as a couple, and really help break that down for them. So then visually they can also see, okay, so this is sort of what I need. Um, Am I going to be okay? Will I be okay? And you don't know the answers to that unless you've got some figures and data and support to show you, yes, it's going to work, or no, we're going to have a shortfall, but let's work ways around that and let's, create a new path forward for you. But it's common, very common, Sarah. Not everybody knows the depths of their assets, what they've got, their liabilities, all of those things, extremely common.
And, the word that just keeps coming up is overwhelm. And it is. It's emotional. It's a big, big upheaval in your life. And you can understand wanting to hold on to things that are familiar, like the family house, when it might not make sense. It can also sometimes, divorces are not all that friendly. There can be a bit of spite involved from either side. How much can knowing how much money we want to walk away with and how we want to do that split help when it comes to those negotiations and knowing when to step away?
Well, it helps you knowing when to step away. So if it is, and we've all had, friends that have gone through a separation and, they're just about to throw the baby out with the bathwater, they're going to give up. But if you don't know when to step away, you can end up making unwise choices. So having some, what we refer to in the industry as financial modeling is just projections. And it occurs in financial advice everywhere. When you're doing retirement planning, you're just doing projections forward. But at least if you know roughly what the bottom line for you is, you can then say, well, this is what's on the table. I can actually step away with that and know that I'm going to be okay, rather than continue down a path that you don't want to go down for a bit more, but you're exhausted. You're absolutely exhausted. So having that information and having that knowledge and making decisions that are best for yourself. Sometimes, yes, emotionally charged decisions, we're making them because, out of anger as well. But what I try to do with, a lot, we support the family lawyers in this journey because they're extremely time poor and they're, managing a whole lot of things, and they don't always have the capacity to walk their clients through every financial decision. But if we can say to you, well, this is what's on the table, it's not a perfect outcome. However, it's still going to sustain you and you're going to be okay. They're the words everybody wants to hear. Well,
Absolutely.
I'm going to be okay. And you don't know the answer to that until, unless you're, very good with financial figures, you don't always know the answer to that. And we will delve a bit deeper than just, jotting down a few cost of living expenses. We will go a bit deeper, and we know how to do that as well without putting that burden on your shoulders.
Yeah, and probably something a lot of people haven't thought about or in the overwhelm don't think about when it comes to divorce. Mandy, thank you so much for the chat this morning. Really good to touch on this. It's important.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah.
Mandy Newman there, Senior Financial Advisor and Director at AJN Financial Services. A reminder, of course, that any advice that you hear this morning, very general in nature, always a good idea to go and get your own independent financial advice about your personal situation.